Simpson, and today we're going to work on using the formula for permutation and combination. In the last few videos I've done, we talked about when to use permutation and combination and why the formulas look like they do. In this video, I'm just going to do some examples where I'm using the formula. So in permutation, we have our formula of m factorial divided by n minus r factorial. And here I have some numbers that I'm just going to plug into the formula. So in this case, I have 15 as my n, and I'm choosing 3, and for some they need to be, the problem shows that their order matters in this case. So now I'm just going to plug it into the formula so that I do 15 factorial over 15 minus 3 factorial. I did another video on factorials. Remember that all that means is that we're multiplying our whole numbers from 1 up to n. In this case is 15. So that 15 factorial, I'm going to do inside the parentheses here where I have 12 factorial. But this 15 factorial just means 15 times 14 times 13 times 12 times 11, all the way down to 1. 12 factorial means the same idea, where I do 12 times 11 times 10, all the way to 1. I stopped here at 12 because on the bottom, I also have 12. Now I could write out 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 and do the same thing on bottom, but since this number, 12 factorial, is the same as that number, 12 factorial, when I have the same thing on top and on bottom, that divides to equal 1. So I can make those just be equal to 1. Now, all I'm left with is 15 times 14 times 13, or 2,730. Here, I'm going to just do another example where I have a permutation with 20 and I'm choosing 5. Again, order mattered somehow in the problem. So I have my 20 factorial on top and 20 minus 5 factorial on bottom. I do inside the parentheses first. And now this 20 factorial is just 1 times 2 times 3 all the way up to 20. Again, I'm going to stop at 15 factorial because the bottom has 15 factorial. So this number on top is the same as this number on bottom. So those two are just equal to 1. And on a calculator, I multiply 20 times 19 times 18 times 17 times 16, or I just multiply those out, and I get $1,860,480 different permutations. For combination, just adds one little step into it. Still have the number in our group and how many we're choosing, so that I could write my combination with 18 choose 6. You may also see this written. Another notation for that is 18 choose 6. This always means that we have a combination. So now I'm going to do this, just fill it into the formula so that I have 18 factorial over the 6 goes in place of r. And then n minus r is 18 minus 6 factorial. Now, I'm just going to do inside the parentheses first. Now it's just a matter of doing the arithmetic. So that I have 6 factorial, and inside of here I have 12 factorial. This is a little bit trickier than down there, but I'm still going to write this out the same way, where I do 18 times 17 times 16 times 15 times 14 times 13. When I get to this point, this 12 factorial, just like before, this 12 factorial here and this 12 factorial on bottom are going to are going to reduce to 1. 6 factorial means 6 times times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. That's what that 6 factorial means down on bottom. So now I could multiply out on top and multiply out on bottom and then look for ways to simplify at that point. Or I could just simplify it to begin with. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to look for ways to simplify it. Notice that 6 times 3 is equal to 18. So instead of writing this whole thing, I could have written 18 times 5 times 4 times 2 times 1. So I'm going to take the 6 and the 3, which equals 18, and this 18, and divide those out to make it 1. I'm going to do some more reduction. This 5 can go into 15 3 times. The 4 can go into 16 4 times. And this 2 could either go into the 4 2 times, or it can go into the 14 7 times. Either way. Notice I'm only left with 1 on the bottom. And all whole numbers have 1 on the bottom. So in each one of these, you should be able to reduce it down so that only 1 is on the bottom. You should be able to simplify it all the way down to that. So now it's just a matter of doing this multiplication. What I'm left with is 17 times 4 times 3 times 7 times 13. So with a little multiplication work there, I determined that that's 18,564. One last problem, one last example. Again, I've got my combination is 14, choose 3, or you may see that written in some places, 14, choose 3. And again, my 14 factorial goes on top. The 3 factorials on bottom, and 14 minus 3 factorial is also on bottom. So that 14 factorial, let me do it inside the parentheses first so that I have 14 factorial over 3 factorial and 11 factorial. So that 14 factorial again is 1 times 2 times 3 all the way up to 14. Or I could write that 14 times 13 times 12 times 11. Now again, I'm going to stop there because I have this 11 factorial on the bottom, and this and that are the same number, so they reduce to 1. I still have this 3 factorial on the bottom, so I'm going to rewrite that as 3 times 2 times 1, because that's what that factorial means. Now in here, I have 3 times 2, which you notice is equal to 6. So I could take that 6 and divide it into 12. Or you could just take 3 and divide it into 12 and get 4, and 2 and divide it into 14 and get 7. Either way, I'm going to do it this way. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 6 goes into 12 2 times. Notice I'm only left with 1 on the bottom. In each one of these problems, I should be able to simplify it down so that I'm only left with a 1 on the bottom. Now I just need to multiply 14 times 13 times 2 so that I end up with 364 combinations. So order did not matter there. Now, if you happen to be allowed to use a calculator, you could just put this in a calculator. The way you'd need to put it into the calculator is you would put in the 18 factorial in parentheses, and then use your division, use your parentheses again, and do 6 factorial with 18 minus 6 factorial, and then close your parentheses, and it should give you this answer of 18,564. So if you just put parentheses around the top, use your division, put parentheses around your bottom, your calculator should also give you that answer. Thanks for watching. Until next time.